You ever think a single goat could start a war? Because I sure didn't. Not until Daisy and I rolled into our so-called perfect neighborhood. Picture this. I just traded in city sirens and concrete for a street where the grass is always suspiciously green. Everyone's got matching mailboxes, and folks wave like extras in some feel-good commercial. I figured I'd landed in peace and quiet heaven. You know what I mean? And sure, maybe bringing a goat wasn't the most conventional move, but Daisy wasn't just livestock to me. She was family. Been with me through the worst nights when it felt like. She was the only one who really understood what it meant to start over. Now, you gotta understand, Daisy isn't your average goat. She's gentle, smart as a whip, only real flaw being her weird obsession with chewing up anything that even smells like paper. At first, the neighborhood treated Daisy like a celebrity. Kids snuck her carrots. People grinned as she trotted around like she owned the place, and some folks even joked she gave the block a touch of country charm. But peace is always temporary, right? Enter Karen. You know the type. Karen lived 3 doors down, but you could hear her long before you saw her, always stomping around like she owned the joint, policing garbage bins and grass heights as if God had personally handed her the HOA rulebook. She was the self-declared queen of the block. I should have known Daisy was doomed the second Karen locked eyes with her. First shot across the bow, a typed, official-looking letter from Karen herself, taped dead center on my front door, declaring that livestock wasn't allowed and Daisy had to go. Only problem, Karen had never actually read the HOA bylaws. I had. Nowhere did it mention goats. Just some vague lines about domesticated animals that aren't a nuisance. Daisy qualified. I shrugged, tossed the letter, and figured that'd be the end of it. Rookie mistake. If you ignore Karen, you only add fuel to her fire. Next day, she's posted at my fence, arms folded, eyeing Daisy like she's got rabies. Daisy just wandered up to say hi, clueless as ever. Karen scurried off like she'd just faced down a wolf. After that, the letters kept coming, sometimes twice a week, each one more dramatic. According to Karen, Daisy would bring wild coyotes, tank property values, poison children's lungs. Total fiction. Meanwhile, Daisy mostly napped in the sun. One day I came home and found Daisy chewing on a fat stack of HOA documents, bright yellow highlighter everywhere. Karen's name stamped big as day on the front. Turns out, Karen had stuffed my mailbox so full of complaints, the wind had blown the door open and Daisy helped herself. You should have seen Karen's face when she found Daisy munching her precious paperwork. I'll never forget the sound of her gasp, loud enough to startle the birds. From that moment, it was war. The neighborhood split in two. Team Daisy and Team Karen. Karen plastered dramatic flyers on every mailbox. Daisy was now a threat to community order, accused of deliberately sabotaging HOA proceedings. The absurdity would have been funny if I hadn't known Karen was dead serious. She pushed for an emergency HOA meeting, demanding Daisy's immediate removal. The catch? Karen wasn't actually on the board. She just liked to act like it. The night of the meeting, our clubhouse was packed. Karen made her case, all fire and brimstone, painting Daisy as a feral escape artist with a taste for legal documents. The twist? When asked for proof, all she had were blurry photos of Daisy peacefully grazing behind a fence. Not exactly the smoking gun. The board struggled to keep straight faces. The audience giggled openly. Karen, flustered, doubled down, claiming Daisy had destroyed the evidence by eating her complaints. The place erupted in laughter. That should have ended it. Instead, Karen just got more creative. My trash cans mysteriously tipped over, weeds tossed in my yard that could make Daisy sick. Even a few ugly rumors whispered to neighbors. The block was tense. Some folks slipped me encouraging notes, others worried Daisy didn't belong. Saturday morning, Karen filmed Daisy through my fence, narrating some wild story about goat attacks. Daisy. She barely even looked up from her clover. The board finally called another meeting, not to debate Daisy, but to address the rift Karen was causing. They urged us to settle things like adults, but let's be honest, some folks just don't know when to quit. And then, fate delivered a legendary moment. One evening, Karen was out passing flyers. Daisy, with her impeccable timing, reached through the fence and snagged one, chewing it up as Karen screamed. Half the neighborhood saw it. Phones came out, The video spread like wildfire. Overnight, Daisy became a minor celebrity. Kids drew her in sidewalk chalk, neighbors dropped off treats, and someone even photoshopped her face onto a movie poster. HOA, the Terminator. You'd think Karen would admit defeat, but no. She filed daily complaints to the board, wrote that Daisy stank up the whole street, even tried to start a petition to ban unconventional animals. Only a handful of folks signed, and most of those signatures were, frankly, illegible scribbles. So Karen took it higher, reported Daisy to animal control. An inspector came out, did a full walkthrough, and left smiling. Said Daisy was the healthiest, happiest goat he'd ever seen. Case closed. Karen, humiliated but unbroken, went nuclear. She started a new petition, plastered the neighborhood with glossy flyers, and lectured outside the clubhouse like she was running for office. Most people signed just to get her off their porch, then laughed about it. Still, the tension was real. The board scheduled one final vote. This was it, Daisy's fate in the balance. The meeting was standing room only. Karen went full courtroom drama, flapping her petition and declaring Daisy a menace. When the board checked, her petition was nearly empty. That's when something incredible happened. Neighbors stood up, one after another, defending Daisy. Said she'd brought the community together, made people laugh, even got kids talking to each other again. The board delivered their verdict: Daisy stays. The room exploded in applause. And just when you thought it was over, Daisy made her grand entrance, led in by a pack of giggling kids, right up to Karen. She yanked the top sheet from Karen's last stack of complaints and ate it, right there, with everyone watching. Phones out, people cheering, Karen shrieking in the background as Daisy chewed her evidence to shreds. Yeah, that happened. After that, Karen disappeared, kept her curtains drawn, voice nowhere to be heard. Daisy, on the other hand, became a neighborhood legend. The HOA even updated the bylaws, not to ban goats, but to officially allow them, as long as they were cared for. Now, every time I see Daisy basking in the grass, I can't help but think how a stubborn goat, and an even more stubborn neighbor, turned my quiet little retreat into a place where people actually connect. So let me ask you, when it comes to rules and community, who's right? The person clinging to control, or the goat who brought us together? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear your wildest HOA stories. After all, sometimes the real troublemakers turn out to be the heart of the block. Now, you'd think that after Daisy's courtroom debut and Karen's epic meltdown, life in the neighborhood would finally settle down, right? I mean, what more could possibly happen after a goat chews up your last ounce of authority in front of half the county? But here's the thing about stories like this. Peace doesn't last long, not when egos and old grudges are involved. Especially not with someone like Karen lurking behind her curtains, stewing in the dark, convinced the universe owes her a rematch. At first, it was quiet. Too quiet. Daisy was loving her newfound fame. Kids brought her snacks. Every afternoon, neighbors leaned over the fence to snap selfies with the HOA Terminator, and someone even knitted her a little scarf with tiny paper shredder icons on it. I started to think maybe, just maybe, the storm had passed. But one thing I should have learned by then: never count Karen out. It started small, almost like she was testing the waters. My mailbox got stuffed full of junk. Flyers, random lost pet posters, discount coupons for dog obedience classes, a brochure for some pet etiquette seminar 3 towns over. Subtle, but classic Karen. I'd laugh it off. Daisy would sniff through the pile, and we'd get on with our day. But you could feel the tension building, like thunder in the distance, you know? Then one morning, I'm sipping my coffee and scrolling through messages when I notice a group text blowing up. Turns out, Karen had gone digital. She'd started a private Facebook group for concerned residents, posting grainy, zoomed-in photos of Daisy from behind bushes, along with dramatic captions like "Goats spotted outside fence," "Public safety issue," and "IS our community at risk." I'll give her credit. She never ran out of steam. Some folks joined just for the entertainment. A few took her seriously. There's always a couple, right? But most just lurked and laughed. But here's where things got weird. Out of nowhere, a new neighbor moved in across the street. Miriam, mid-30s, big city energy, the kind of person who names her houseplants and runs ultramarathons for fun. At first, I thought she'd steer clear of the drama, but Miriam surprised us all. One evening, after a particularly wild thread in the Facebook group, she showed up at my door with a tray of cookies and this. Look like, okay, spill. What's the deal with the goat? We got a talking, swapping stories, and before I knew it, Miriam had Daisy eating out of her hand, literally. Turns out, she'd grown up on a farm herself. And just like that, Daisy had a new fan. But what neither of us realized was that Miriam's arrival would kick off a whole new chapter in this ridiculous saga. See, Miriam wasn't just friendly. She was the kind of neighbor who actually liked getting involved. Next HOA meeting, she stood up and started asking pointed questions about transparency, board elections, and why, exactly. One resident, hint, Karen, kept generating so many complaints. You could see the old guard squirming. Karen glared daggers at her, but Miriam didn't back down. It was like watching someone bring a bazooka to a water gun fight. The board, already tired of Karen's endless crusade, welcomed the fresh air. Pretty soon, more neighbors started speaking up. The next thing I knew, we were organizing block parties, starting a community garden, and setting up a pet parade for the kids. And guess who they unanimously voted to lead the parade? That's right, Daisy, decked out in her shredded paper scarf, strutting down the street like the world's weirdest celebrity. For a while, it felt like the neighborhood was actually healing. People joked about the Great Goat War, traded Karen stories over lemonade, and some even thanked me for sticking it out. I'd walk Daisy past Karen's house and catch her peeking through the blinds, scowling like a villain in a Saturday morning cartoon. But the thing about people like Karen, they don't let go. So it didn't shock me when I heard rumors she was running for HOA president. Not gonna lie, that sent a chill down my spine. Imagine the chaos if she actually won. The flyers, the midnight stakeouts, the threat of paper shortages all over again. But the difference now? She wasn't unopposed anymore. Miriam, bless her heart, threw her hat in the ring. Suddenly, it was a real election, old school versus new blood. The debates were legendary. Karen stuck to her script: lawns, order, traditional values, restoring dignity. To the community, Miriam countered with community spirit, inclusion, and less drama, more living. Daisy even made a campaign appearance, sporting a little vote for Miriam bandana. I swear, the whole thing belonged on reality TV. Election night came, and the clubhouse was packed. People milled around nervously, everyone pretending not to care but dying to see the outcome. When the votes were counted, it wasn't even close. Miriam won in a landslide. Karen didn't even stick around for the results. She left before the cake was cut, head held high, but you could see the defeat in her shoulders. After that, everything shifted. The rules relaxed, the board meetings got shorter, and folks actually seemed happier. Daisy became the unofficial mascot. Her face ended up on the neighborhood Facebook banner, for crying out loud. Even people who'd once been on the fence, pun intended, started bringing their grandkids by to meet her. But let me tell you, peace in suburbia is always fragile. Every now and then, a mysterious complaint pops up, or someone finds a snarky flyer taped to a lamppost. Old habits die hard. But Daisy, well, she just keeps munching away, oblivious to the politics swirling around her. She reminds us that sometimes it takes a stubborn goat to break the ice and show people what really matters. So what do you think? Are communities about rules and order, or about finding ways to actually live together, paperwork, quirks, goats and all? Let me know your take below, and share your own wild neighborhood stories. I have a feeling Daisy's not the last legend this block will ever see.